Hello, everyone. It is 11:30 Central, so we will get started. Thank you for tuning in to today's presentation, Integrating Leadership Skills into Your Agriculture Course Content. My name is Kelsey, and I will be your moderator for today's presentation. First, here is your 30-second introduction to Realityworks for those of you who aren't familiar with us. We are an employee-owned company based in Eau Claire, Wisconsin that creates experiential learning tools for teaching job and life skills. We got our start over 20 years ago when former NASA engineer Rick Germain created the first RailCare baby infant simulator and then went on to found the company that is now Realityworks. Today, our training tools combine curriculum with hands-on learning tools, student activities, and assessments. Baby is still around, but now you can look to us for our tools like our bovine birthing and ultrasound simulator, our virtual welding simulator, our wearable geriatric sensitivity suits, and if you have some time, we encourage you to check out our website and see it all. Presenting today, we have Denise Dubois, who is the Senior Product Manager here at Realityworks and has been with us for over 15 years. She is a frequent presenter, trainer, and blogger for all things related to facts, health science, and human services. Denise has experience teaching in Wisconsin and Minnesota and has over 20 years of education marketing experience and professional development. She is also the co-chair for Alliance for Family and Consumer Sciences and on the Executive Council National Consortium for Health Science Education. Before we get started, I want to cover a couple things. First, today's presentation has been pre-recorded and all attendees will receive a link containing the recording as well as a copy of PowerPoint slides and free resources. For those of you attending live today, you will also receive a certificate of completion for attending today's presentation. Keep an eye on your email. We will receive that email within 24 hours after the presentation. We will have time at the end for Q&A, so feel free to type your questions in the chat or Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to Denise.
Thank you, Kelsey, and welcome to our webinar today. Here's what we're going to discuss during our time together. First of all, we will briefly discuss why employability skills like leadership even matter, and then we'll get into a variety of activities and ideas that you can use for weaving leadership soft skills into your AG courses. And we will also share some pathway specific projects that you can do as well. So first, let's define what these skills are. Leadership employability skills, also known as soft skills, are the skills needed to get and keep a job. Soft skills are also incredibly important as they relate to leadership. Helping your students become college and career ready is a primary goal for your program. Developing young leaders is another. One way to ensure career readiness is to give students the opportunity to actively practice a variety of soft skills. Use scenarios and activities to introduce students to many important soft skills, such as these desired by employers. Through a variety of activities and discussions, you can relate each soft skill, which ties it into leadership development. Now, do not underestimate the importance of soft skills in the workplace. And here are some statistics from two recent studies. And as you look at what's on the screen, some of this is really amazing. 84% of employees and managers believe new hires must demonstrate soft skills during the hiring process. And we are hearing from employers that some of our young people are not coming to the job with these needed skills. An even higher one is 92% of companies say soft skills are as important or more important than technical skills. You can also see that the study analyzing 70 million job transitions, they really need those individuals with those soft skills like collaboration, adaptability, and communication. Job success is deeply dependent on an employee's soft skills. And now let's look at this recent study conducted by Harvard. Again, you can see the percentage of job success coming from well-developed soft skills and people skills is very high at 85%. Now, organizations that invest in leadership development will see significant benefits in performance and retention. And you can see things like, critical to success. Employee retention is higher, improves the organizational performance. So leadership development is really key. Now we're going to get into some best practices and ideas for incorporating leadership soft skills into your everyday lessons. The first best practice for integrating leadership into your AIG program, or really any CTE program, is to engage your students. CTE in general is all about hands-on experiential learning, and it's no different as you introduce leadership soft skills for practice and application into your lessons. Now, helping your students learn self-confidence is an important soft skill for any occupational area. And we know that in a post-COVID work environment, things like handshakes may no longer be the norm. So practicing a professional way to introduce yourself and initiate a conversation, making that solid first impression is a great way to engage your students. So we would like to introduce this special acronym as a way to practice professional introductions. So S, smile. Start with a smile and be confident. Posture, straight, stand up straight. And eye contact is look them in the eye. For confidence, be positive and self-confident. You're worth getting to know. I, introduce yourself. Practice what you'd say in a short elevator speech about yourself. When you ask questions, you show you're engaged and interested. And then learn and listen from the other person by using active listening techniques. You could have your students pair up and practice with each other. Now, by starting with a strong introduction, that's a great way to engage your students. Now we're going to share a variety of other activities that will engage students as you introduce skills such as trust. Now, helping students learn about trust and confidentiality are important to leadership. Using confidentiality is really a great strategy for building trust. It's important to keep any confidence that you've been entrusted with or by someone else. You can't expect to be an effective leader if you betray the trust someone has placed in you. So this is a great way to start a discussion with your students, like when you shared something private with someone else, when it was told to someone else, how did you feel? And discussion questions would be, are you someone who can be trusted with private and confidential information? Why or why not? And to gauge your trustworthiness in this area, you could ask yourself how you would handle a scenario as the one that you see on the screen here. You can divide your class into small groups, maybe 3 or 4 students, give them this scenario, and then you could use the same one for every group, or you could come up with even more, and each group could have their own. But the group must come to a consensus as to how they would recommend handling each scenario, along with reasons why they chose their answer, so that when you bring the class back together, each group will share their scenario, and they'll have a representative from the group explain the answer and why they decided to do things as they did. Conflicts in the workplace can be a distraction. They can destroy motivation, they can reduce productivity, and really lead to anger and frustration overall. As a leader, it's your job to successfully facilitate conflict resolution. Now, we know that some conflict is natural in the workplace and can many times lead to healthy discussions and innovative solutions. There are 5 conflict approach styles to choose from according to the Thomas Kilmann model. And you'll see those 5 listed on the screen in front of you. What you could do is you could give your students an overview or a brief description of each of those 5, and there are many sources you can go to online to find that type of information. And then you could have your students read through a workforce scenario, and they're tasked with using one of these conflict approach styles to solve it. Now, I was recently at an Illinois CTE teacher's classroom, and the instructor who had come from industry was really lamenting the fact that her students couldn't communicate and didn't know the value of showing up on time. Well, a great place to start developing those skills is in the classroom, especially if they are not experiencing those requirements anywhere else. By demanding professionalism, you're setting your students up for success in the workplace. Now, that said, the key here is consistency. Every day, make sure your students know they're expected to do things like arrive on time, come prepared, use proper spelling and punctuation, dress for success, or you may have your others. So now that we know you might not be able to do every one of these things every day, but the idea really here is to mimic a work environment and get your students used to those professional habits. Begin by introducing the definition of the term professionalism to the class. Professionalism integrates a number of different attributes which together serve to identify and define a professional. So you would have your students complete an answer to the question, what are the attributes of a professional? Give them maybe 5 minutes to identify as many professional attributes as they can. Continue on by sharing an image with a professional saying, and there are many that you can find in Google. Many of the attributes or characteristics of a professional can be summarized as how you act, how you look, and how you think. Ask students to share the attributes they identified in the previous step. Provide some thought-provoking questions to facilitate discussion. Are professionalism and leadership the same thing? Are the characteristics that you would consider professional, but not characteristic of a leader? Why or why not? Now, as a leader, there's a difference between telling people what to do and working with employees on professional development. A core competency for an effective leader is coaching skill, which focuses on developing employees. One way you can introduce the concept of coaching as a leader is through a TED Talk. Now, if you Google coaching, you'll find many that could be used. And here's a link or one example that I found that runs about 18 minutes. Ask students to identify coaching skills that leaders should have. Students could write them on a piece of paper individually, or you could ask the question as a class exercise and come up with your master list. And if these 10 things aren't on the list, you could certainly share those as well. Now let's get into SMART goals. And they're a goal-setting technique that allows leaders the opportunity to set actionable objectives that receive results. Many managers and leaders may use this method to further break down long-standing vague or unclear goals. Each letter in the acronym is a principle that can be used in the process to create goals that make sense. So you can share a scenario and have students write a SMART goal for that scenario. And I will share a scenario now so you can get an example of this. So Maria is a recent college graduate. She has a degree in veterinary science, and it's always been a dream of hers to start her own small animal practice using her own ideas for things like setting up exam rooms and waiting spaces. She likes the idea of having her own business so she can work when she wants and travel. She loves to travel with her family, and she plans to use some of what she learns from her trips in the future practice. She would really like to be able to quit her part-time job as a vet tech in a couple of years to run her own business full-time. So, can you think of a SMART goal for Maria? And you could give your students an example, such as a goal could be, I want to start a small animal practice. And so now write a SMART goal to help Maria. Diplomacy in leadership refers to the use of tact in such a way that negotiations, policies, conflicts, interests, and benefits are agreed upon and both parties are happy with the outcome. It's a unique skill set that some people have naturally, while others develop through practice, trial, and error. A leader who uses diplomacy and tact excels. So this activity will help your students understand what diplomacy and tact are and how to use these skills in the workplace. So you could share the following strategies for communicating with tact. And you can see the list here on the screen. Go through those, explain those to students. And the next part is, now that you've shared strategies for communicating with tact, have your students put this into practice. How would they restate each of the following statements to be more tactful? Now, you could create a dozen or more of your own, or have each student contribute one statement that another student has to restate. For example, for statement number one, I want that farm accident report now. Restated with more tact could be, could you submit the farm accident report as soon as possible so that we can brief our insurance company? Now, here's our third best practice, and that is to strive to integrate some sort of leadership skills into every class. Good effective leadership is a skill that can be learned, practiced, and improved upon. And while we tend to notice the more obvious charismatic leaders, with the loud and bold personalities, the fact is anybody, even that quiet kid in the back who hardly speaks a word, can be a leader. Our world needs good, effective leaders. And with a bit of training and encouragement, our students have the potential to meet and even surpass that need. So one way to integrate leadership skills into every class is through the use of icebreaker activities. Now, these could range from a 30-second introduction or a focused 5-minute activity, but leadership skills can and should be addressed in every classroom. Now, often students might not even be aware they're learning these types of skills. Remember that collaborative work helps build communication skills. So start class with a quick think and share pair activity where students pair up for a quick discussion. Things like open-ended questions help students build problem-solving skills. So you could write a big idea question on the board and have your students journal their answers. Reflection activities help build critical thinking skills. So you could use a KWL chart as the beginning and the end of the class to help your students reflect on what they know and what they've learned. Oral speaking assignments help build self-confidence. Do introductions with a twist. Ask everybody to introduce themselves, state something they know, or state something unusual about themselves that no one knows. Help your students develop time management skills. Give each small group a bowl with pre-measured items in it, and then put in a few larger items. Now, the smaller items will spill out, and the students doing their best to pile them all back into the container again. And this will show the trick of putting um, the most important things first and the little things around them. And it also illustrates the point of prioritizing the big stuff and fitting the smaller things around it. Interruptions for the rest of the day can be referred to as the small things. So observation is a very powerful skill for learning for all of us. But as a leader, it is perhaps even more important. As a leader, we need to be aware of how individual team members are doing and watch for things like engagement, team dynamics, behavior, and communication. Leaders must be looking, noticing, asking, and being aware to spot trends, learn more, and lead more effectively. This activity is to help students harness the power of observation as a leadership skill and to put it into practice. So for this activity, find a photograph that has a lot of detail in it. Explain to your students that they will view the photo, such as this, for maybe up to 30 seconds. And then after the 30 seconds are up, students will be asked a series of questions, but you have to make sure you advance the slide presentation or stop showing the slide after the 30 seconds so that students must recall using their powers of observation. So in a picture for something like this, after showing it 30 seconds, you could be asking questions like, what were the students doing? How many tables were present? What were students wearing? What was the instructor in the photo? And what measures are students taking in the photo to meet safety and sanitation guidelines? And it will really challenge your students to see their power and skills of recall. Having honesty and integrity in the workplace is one of the most important qualities of great leadership. In this activity, students learn what this means and how to apply these skills to their work and personal lives. You can begin, if students are not familiar with these words, by defining each. Honesty is defined by a person's relationship to truth and deception or lack of it, while integrity is defined by a person's relationship to principles such as codes of conduct or morality. Integrity stands as a more broadly demanding concept morally in comparison to honesty. But you can see how both are an essential part of being an effective leader. For this activity, find quotes or sayings online that focus on honesty and integrity. Share these with your students, and then as a writing exercise, have them journal and ask students to tell you what they think that the quotes really mean and why. And here are just a couple examples you can use, but there are many more that you can find. We know that many CTSO organizations have leadership competitive events, and FFA has many career and leadership development events and opportunities. Some of the ideas we shared today can help your students prepare for these leadership events. These ideas will give your students practice and application of leadership soft skills. Now we'd like to share some AIG pathway specific activities and projects for leadership skills application. So this is for plant science or plant systems. And if you teach a strand like that, you could do a crop planning leadership lab. And you can see the variety of soft skills something like this will integrate and teach. So really it's having your students work in teams and they're going to design a seasonal crop plan for a local farm. And they have to look at many different things when they put this together. As you can see, climate, market demands, sustainability. And here are the instructions. They're very easy to lay out and do. But if possible, provide data on many different soil types, different weather patterns, and crop options. You might want to choose something local to you. Then you're going to assign those leadership roles to the group, and the teams will present their crop plans to a mock farm board, and then they're going to include a reflection session on the leadership decisions and team dynamics and how things went in their planning lab. Now, for animal science, you could do a livestock management leadership rotation. Again, you can see those great soft skills such as responsibility, empathy, and decision making. So for an activity like this, your students are going to rotate through leadership roles while managing a small livestock unit. And it can be on a variety of different animals, but they're going to focus on things like health, feeding, and welfare. So when you put together this rotation, you're going to create a schedule. So a schedule with the leadership tasks so students can rotate through that. It's going to include daily logs and leadership reflections. Reflection and debriefing are always key. And then you're going to host things like group discussions on ethical leadership and animal care. And then you're going to encourage students to have peer feedback on leadership effectiveness. Now, if you're doing an egg technology unit or pathway, a precision egg innovation pitch would be a great project for you to think about. And here you've got soft skills woven in, such as innovation, communication, persuasion, entrepreneurship. Students are going to research and they're going to pitch a new precision agriculture technology. And you can see there's many to choose from. And they're going to pitch this to a panel of, quote, investors. So here are the instructions for that. You're going to provide example of those tech tools for students to choose from, and then they're going to form their team and develop the concept and of course the pitch. Think Shark Tank. Include leadership coaching on persuasive communication, and then you're going to host a special class or day with scoring on leadership presence and clarity while they do their pitch. If you teach agribusiness, you could do a farm to market leadership simulation. And soft skills here would be things like financial literacy, negotiation, strategic planning, but a whole lot more. Here, your students are going to simulate running their own small agribusiness, and they're going to be tasked with making decisions on things like marketing and production, sales, pricing, and more. You may use a simplified business simulation platform or even a spreadsheet model if you have that available. And you assign leadership roles like CFO, leader, CEO, and then you're going to include challenges like things are going to shift in the market or supply chain could be disrupted. And then you're going to debrief again with a focus on leadership under pressure and ethical decision making. Now, if you teach things like water systems, an irrigation leadership design challenge could be a great project. Soft skills such as problem solving, environmental stewardship, teamwork, and more would be integrated in such a project. And here your students are just going to design an irrigation system. You're going to have a hypothetical farm with those limited water resources. You might even be able to find something, a situation happening in real life across the country that you want to use as well. You're going to provide the students with those constraints that they need to keep in mind, and then they're going to go into teams and develop a system using, perhaps software models or maps. And then in that group, you're going to assign leadership roles. Then the team will present their solutions, and they're going to reflect on the leadership in resource management that they experienced in their group. So now that we've shared many different best practices, projects, and activities, we would like to share our Leadership Soft Skills program with you. So if you're looking to save time, we have a Leadership Soft Skill program that has 3 parts to it. The teacher guide with the 18 ready-to-use lessons. We have 20 student workbooks and scenario cards. Each one of the scenario cards features one of the 18 soft skills included. And we have both print and online versions available. Now, we also have something similar to this, which is our employability skills program that you could use in any career and technical education course. And you could do mini units on soft skills, and this is a great supplement to an existing career preparation program. But again, you've got the, the 19 different lessons on a whole variety of soft skills. And then you're going to have scenario cards, and also you're going to have those student workbooks to put all of those soft skills into practice. And more student workbooks can, of course, be ordered on our website. And we recently launched a brand new Real Career Middle School Employability Skills program. This is an easy to implement program and it's really designed for younger learners. The Middle School Employability Skills program uses hands-on activities and real-world applications to teach middle school students 20 different soft skills prioritized and chosen by middle school teachers. Now, each is a standalone lesson and it will introduce a soft skill. The student will apply it in anywhere from 2 to 4 activities, and you're helping your students develop those transferable employability skills. Now, we also have sets of scenario cards that focus specifically on age-related occupational areas, focusing on 19 different soft skills in each deck. And I'm going to share some ideas now, 5 easy ways or activities that you could do with those scenario cards. The first one is use it for a 5-minute icebreaker activity, where you'd begin the class by sharing the scenario, and then you could read it or show it on a document projector, but you could get your students into small groups. They should discuss the scenario and answer the key questions, and then have that class come back together and share the answers to the questions. You could also use this for a journaling activity because on each of the scenario cards, there are key questions on the back that you could use as writing prompts. Now, you could pre-choose the employability skill you wish to teach and use the scenario, and then you have your students answer questions in writing to see what they already know about the skill. You could also use one of these as a post-assessment. So you teach the lesson on the skill that you've chosen, and then after the lesson, you can have your students answer the discussion questions on the card as a means of assessment. And then another way that you could use these is role playing. You can have your students get into small groups, assign the group's point of view on the back of the card, and then have students role play the scenario and then discuss a variety of potential outcomes for solving the scenario. So I've shared a lot of activities, best practices, and even some resources from Realityworks. So at this time, I'm going to send it back to Kelsey for any questions that we saw in the chat.
Perfect. Thanks, Denise. Just one question here. Do you know how many scenarios come with those packs of scenario cards?
There are 19 different soft skills for each of the scenario card decks.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, that is all the questions that I am seeing at this time.
Okay, so here are some things that you can do if you're interested in integrating leadership into your program. First of all, we do have a soft skill uh, into implementation guide that you can download at the link. It's also on our website. We also have a soft skills training tools guide, and we have many different free online lessons as well. So if you're interested in connecting with us, you can scan the QR code on the screen and we can help connect you with an account manager and help answer any questions you might have and more. Kelsey, if you see no more questions, we would like to thank you for joining us today on learning how to integrate leadership into your AIG program.